Why do the best divers look motionless underwater? Because slow wins. It changes how you breathe, how you balance, and what you notice. I'm Don, and I've spent years diving to only learn that going slow matters more than moving fast in diving. So hear me out, and I hope to inspire you to go slow on your next dive. Today, we're breaking the speed habit that hides the good stuff. Do you know what separates a new diver from an experienced one? A new diver is swimming like they're late for work. They have limited time and want to see everything, zipping and zanging here and there. Most recreational divers treat underwater movement like they're still on land. Faster means more coverage, more fish, more excitement. Slow divers often reflect experience and see more because all but the largest animals under the water often need a finely tuned eye to see. Fast swimming spikes heart rate, drives shallow, rapid breathing, and turns what could have been a 60-minute dive into a much shorter experience, likely having your time underwater. Not to mention, direct, fast approaches with lots of bubbling look threatening. So animals slip away before you can even observe them. They take one look at you and literally, nope, not having any of that, back into their hiding spot. While a slow, steady approach where you look non-threatening, moving slowly, observing your surroundings with curiosity will certainly look less hostile and threatening to any intelligent animal. Also, underwater, your usual sensory like vision and hearing behave differently. Colors flatten with depth and distance. Contrast fades and suspended particles add haze. Sound travels faster and localizing direction is harder because of the bone conduction and how sound propagates through water. When you slow down and stop, forcing those senses to do the land job, other systems step up. Touch and pressure awareness become far more informative. You begin to feel microcurrents, small pressure shifts as you change depth, and the texture of water flowing around structures. Thermoclines become obvious as bands of cool or warm water that you sense across your face and hands. This isn't mystical, it's physics and attention. Your senses attune to work better in underwater environment with time and relaxation. A ray under sand gives itself away as a faint dome in texture plus a gentle swirl in the water as it breathes. A school of fish will bend with the current as it turns, and you'll feel the water's direction shift a heartbeat before the fish flash by. To help improve your calmness and stillness in the water so that wildlife approaches you, here are some tips to improve your posture in the water. First, hit neutral buoyancy where you no longer need to fin, with good trim to hold balance and hold yourself still with steady breathing. Keep your hands still at your sides or lightly folded in front of you or out in front of your face like this. Avoid micro sculls with your hands or your fins as much as possible. When you're learning, it's going to be hard. So the goal would be to keep practicing until you don't need those micro sculls. Heck, even with some gear changes and conditions, I still micro scull. So it's a long journey ahead and there's always a search for more perfection or improving that skill. And all this will allow you to hold position, looking at the animal near neutral and being as still as possible. All further motion should be gentle, slow moving, especially with your hands and your fins. Move, pause, and let curiosity work both ways. Marine life responds to your body language. When you look less like a predator and more like an intelligent and curious animal, other animals hold their ground, resume natural behavior, and sometimes come closer out of their own curiosity. You're no longer a visitor peering through a window, you're part of the environment, reading signals and responding to rhythms. Next, we have another point to drive home, and that is when moving quickly, your heart rate increases, being harder to precisely control your buoyancy with your breathing alone. Ultimately, your lungs become part of your buoyancy system when on open circuit diving, which is where you release your exhalation to the environment via bubbles. That's what open circuit is. Your breathing in this case is used to finely tune your buoyancy, rising slightly with an inhale and in settling with an exhale, while your BCD handles the course adjustments with big depth changes. This timed deep breathing cycle accelerates up and down, but the speed cancels itself out with steady rhythms, allowing the diver to near neutral in the water. That simple separation, BCD for gross buoyancy, breath for fine control, keeps you from fighting the water. With good trim that looks like a skydiver air brake, your position in the water column settles at near neutral, allowing you to relax and control your position even more. The important thing to drive home here is when you're flat and in good trim, your depth will change less. You'll be able to hold depth a lot easier when you're flat. If you're vertical, you'll find your depth changes a lot easier and faster, so keep that in mind. Your attention will slowly focus less on movement and buoyancy and relax to focus on the small rock in front of you that is actually a rare scorpion fish. Add in smarter propulsion and everything starts to click. Use precise frog kicks or slow, deliberate narrow flutters so you can glide between strokes instead of constant finning. If you can count at least 1,000 on a silent glide, your effort is still mostly relaxed. Of course, if you can count higher than 1 second, that's even better. But you at least want 1 second for your gliding to feel that relaxation. The underwater environment rewards calm presence and efficient movement. And that's why the fix isn't a new fin or a magic gadget. It's skill, positioning, and comfort. When you're no longer rushing, the stress response that hijacks dives starts to quiet down. You're not flooding your body with stress signals that mask subtle sensations and push you into overbreathing. Your buoyancy becomes predictable because your breathing pattern is predictable. Your gas lasts longer because your effort is lower. Your head becomes clearer because the CO2 you exhale is under control. While if you're breathing fast, the CO2 starts building up more in your body and will give you a killer headache. Not to mention a bunch of other things like a higher chance of gas narcosis and decompression sickness. But you might be asking now is how do you handle current with this go slow model, Don? Well, that's a good question. The key strategy is to be smart about it. Focus on being as lazy as possible. Lazy divers. If you need to fin against current, I would hug the bottom and take lots of breaks. If you need to, find somewhere without reef, grab a rock, just take a bit of rest, look around, find where you want to go next, and go there. You know where you're going before you let go of that rock. Go there, take another rest. Strategically move yourself to positions with cover from the current and hold on to rocks. And if you need to, you can use your arms to pull yourself in the current a lot easier than trying to fin against the current. Just be careful of delicate animals like coral and other fish. And of course, try not to go straight against current. Try to do diagonal zigzags to make it a little bit easier. If the current is too much and starting to stress you out, it's better to just abort the dive and deploy your DSMB with your group. And if you notice that there's some pretty intense current before you leave the boat, you can even convert the dive into a drift dive if the environment allows it. And if you communicate, of course, before you actually in the water. You want to avoid converting a dive after you enter the water into a drift dive, of course. You always want to pre-plan your drift dive. Always focus on keeping the dive slow-paced. You don't need to make it an action-packed experience. And if you're enjoying this video, now is a great time to like and subscribe. Smash that like button. I post weekly content to help divers grow their skills, build confidence, and explore the ocean with curiosity and care. And I have a monthly newsletter where I try to cover the latest and greatest of the dive industry. It's free to sign up. I have a link in the description. I'll see you there. Lastly, I want to discuss that moving fast and not trying to slow yourself down can actually be a safety risk. Your muscles work harder producing that carbon dioxide that I alluded to earlier, and it can increase your gas narcosis, decompression sickness, and will cause that carbon dioxide poisoning, which will give you that killer headache. And trust me, I've experienced some killer headaches, and this goes beyond those. What's important is it's not just nitrogen that can be big enough molecule to cause gas narcosis. It's carbon dioxide as well. All gas potentially can cause narcosis, but carbon dioxide and nitrogen are usually the leading causes because of their size, which causes some concerns when you're deep and working hard. Further, too much carbon dioxide in the system means contention in your system to remove nitrogen and carbon dioxide, which means you will decompress slower. So your model on your dive computer may not be conservative enough, increasing your decompression risk and stress. All these things chip at the safety of diving and the overall experience one should aim for while diving. When you slow down, your breathing naturally deepens and becomes more regular. Deeper, continuous breathing improves gas exchange and helps you clear carbon dioxide, which reduces the urge to breathe and the anxious feeling of gas hunger. Breathe continuously, no breath holding or skip breathing, and favor relaxed full exhales to manage that carbon dioxide. Aim for a gentle rhythm where the exhale is just a touch longer than the inhale, like a built-in metronome for calm. As breathing steadies, your heart rate stabilizes. Your muscles demand less oxygen because they're not working overtime to push you through the water. Think of it like your body shifting from stop and go city driving to smooth highway cruising. The same engine, but everything runs easier and uses less fuel. The physiological shift only happens when you give it the right conditions: slow movement and calm breathing. Slow isn't just lazy. It links your breathing, buoyancy, and senses so that the water helps you instead of fighting you. It almost creates this zen-like energy. I know many experienced divers who enjoy diving because it helps bring them peace. It's a relaxing, calming experience, and that's what it should be. Adjust your next dive accordingly and experiment around with muck diving, which will force you into a much slower pace naturally. If you can enjoy muck diving, you're on the right track. If your next question is how do you improve your ability to go slow with your buoyancy, weighting, and trim, then check out this series next. Another series that will help a number of struggles for beginner divers is here. The more you know, the more you love and protect the ocean. Until next time.